Brother Kuri, salam alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You're called Kuri, but you're not Korean.
I am not Korean. I learned that the hard way, the language difference.
I understand you're from Devon.
Yes.
What do you do here in Cardiff?
I'm studying at the university, Spanish and Portuguese language. Yeah.
Why Spanish and Portuguese in particular?
Oh, Spanish I started learning when I was 14, and obviously we're in a mosque, it's not great, but I fell in love with the music. And I translated lyrics, and it just went from there really. And I don't know how, I realized my brain just works that way, and I fell in love with it.
Well, a larger segment of world population speak Spanish than those who speak English, maybe.
Yeah, it's a really important language.
Yeah. Now, tell me, this is going to be your first Ramadan, inshallah.
Inshallah,
in Islam. How did you start this journey?
It might shock you. It's maybe the hardest question when someone asks. I mean, it's the most obvious question, but when someone asks you, "Oh, you're Muslim. How come?" It's so difficult because something got me here. But it's like, well, what was it? But I guess start from the beginning. I've always been a curious person, someone that looks deeper into things, asks why a lot. My mum must have got really annoyed when I was younger.
Asking too many questions.
All the time. Why?
Well, most kids do this.
Would never just take her word for it. But I've always been curious. Somehow when I was younger, geography and countries and capital cities and stuff, I just had a knack for it. And I knew so much about the world from when I was really young, and I don't actually know where the knowledge came from. But I've always had an intrigue about things that are different. Things that are different, but things that work. And the world, and the fact that I'm here and I don't know why, I didn't know why, and everything around me is so incredible. Yeah, it always really amazed me. When I went to secondary school, I started learning religious studies, and it did Islam and Christianity, and I kind of knew Islam a little bit because my mum's brother married a Muslim woman, and he became Muslim as well, alhamdulillah.
Oh.
So I knew what Islam was. And I remember
What was he practicing?
On and off, I'm not quite sure, Allahu alam. But I remember when I was like 10 or 11, we had a barbecue or something, and it was his wife and her daughter, because they were both Muslim. And I remember I just sat there and it was like this. I was asking them, "Oh, why do you do this? What's this? Like, what's Islam?" All these things about pork and things. I remember I was like 10 or 11, and it's just that intrigue about things I was unfamiliar with. It always really interested me. But when I started learning it in school, I would really look forward to the lessons about Islam, and the knowledge just stuck. And I don't know how. Like, I forgot all of the maths from like year 11. I couldn't tell you the quadratic formula anymore. That went ages ago. But I could tell you, the 5 pillars. And I knew who Abu Bakr was, but I forgot how to add stuff up in my head. So it's something about that when I realized that, I don't know how.
Yeah, you were interested. You learned a little bit about Islam, but when was the critical moment that when you decided, I want to be a Muslim?
This is where it becomes difficult, because I loved learning about it in school, and then I went through A-levels, and it was a really difficult time for me. I wasn't enjoying it, and I was just going home doing nothing. It felt like I wasted 2 years. It was just so I could come to university. But Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and I was on Twitter a lot at that time, and maybe about a month after, I saw all the comments that were like, "You're talking about Ukraine non-stop. What about Palestine? What about Palestine? What about Palestine?" And the first time I heard the word Palestine was Eurovision 2019. But back in the Jahiliyyah days, I loved Eurovision so much. And they hosted it in Israel, and they talked about Palestine as if it was like something you have to mention, but we don't really want to. So that's when I first heard the word, when I was 14. So when I saw that word, I knew, okay, I know what Palestine is. This somewhere in Israel, somewhere to do with this. I know that they're Muslim. So I researched it, and I don't know what happened, something pulled me towards this cause of these people are suffering. It's their land. They took these people in out of the kindness of their own hearts. Obviously now I know it's for the sake of Allah. I didn't know all that yet. But they took these people in out of the kindness of their own heart, and they stole the land, and now they're pretending like it's theirs. And I realised what this was happening, and how the country that I live in covers this up and was responsible. Like, I found out about the Balfour Declaration and how this country is responsible.
You went back in history to learn all of this.
Yeah, well, internet history, not formal, but yeah, so I found out about this, and just the more I learned, the more like Lucia, I was angry. I was quite an angry person. Got angry if I felt like someone was being wronged. And when I found out about the Palestinian cause, it angered me. I felt so passionate about these amazing people in a beautiful, beautiful land, and what's happened to them. And so over that next year, between spring 22 to 23, that consumed my mind. I would say free Palestine to myself all the time. Anytime I saw a mention of Israel, I knew that they were lying. And that it just became the most important thing in my life, in my head. And I don't know how it happened. Like, Allahu Alam, I do not know how it happened.
Was the 7th of October significant in this regard? The 7th of October 2023?
So I remember in the summer, I went to Spain on my own for some holidays, for a trip. Because I spoke Spanish, but I'd never been to Spain. So I thought, what's the point? So I went to Spain. And I remember if I saw someone, this is in the July, if I met someone and I liked them, I would find a way to find out their opinion on Palestine, and just in case. And I remember when I got home, I felt great because I'd had a different experience. And I remember I had an argument with my mum literally the day after I got back. And it was like, okay, I always had a great relationship with my mum. But I had an argument, and I was like, okay. So I went for a run. I went to my park and I started running. And somewhere in my head, and I don't know how, there was like, ask God for the ability, for the power to run as fast as you can and not get tired until you reach home. So I did it, and I ran down the hill to my house. And I didn't feel as tired as I normally would. And I asked him, Alhamdulillah, please, because I didn't know the proper word. I said, Alhamdulillah, please, let me reach home. And then I just kept going. I was looking up to the sky while I was running, and I got home. And I think when I got back, that's when and I don't even know if it was proof, but that's when I started to believe that something was there. Earlier that same year, I remember saying to my mum, "Oh, God's rubbish. Religion is false. It's used to control people, and people believe it because they're scared of dying." The same year.
So you didn't believe, but was your mother religious?
My mum, my grandma is Catholic, but my mum wasn't religious. She's a spiritual person. She's not religious as such. She doesn't follow a religion. But yeah, that was really important moment when I don't know why it was then, but suddenly I just believed that something was there. And I came to uni, and within 2 weeks when I came to uni, obviously October 7th happened, and suddenly everyone was talking about this thing that was always on my mind anyway. And I went to protests and things, but also, at the same time, I was meeting Muslims and talking to them. They could tell that I was interested, and they were asking me, are you interested? I was like, yeah, I think I am. And they were explaining to me things, and some were sending me things of the scientific miracles in the Quran, about mountains and about the sun and the moon and things like that. And through that process of following Palestine, going to the protests, speaking to the Muslims that I met, realizing some of their characters, that I've never seen someone my age act like this before. I remember, I don't want to expose sins, but I think this is important, that in December, there's a prayer room in our student union. I used to play table tennis in the student union. Most of the people were Muslim. And there was a prayer room there, and they would always go. They would be like, oh, it's Asr, let's go. That was something too, like you just drop everything.
They talk among themselves.
They'd go together, you know? And I asked, can I come into your prayer room? I want to see what it's like. I remember just standing there and just feeling this. It was like something was comforting my heart. Like I could feel it's like a blanket, like comfort, peace. And I don't know why. It was, for the first time, I'd never felt anything like that. And I remember just thinking, I think that was a moment where I was like, this is what I need in my life. Throughout my life, the thing, whenever I went through a difficulty and I was talking to my mum about it, I would say that I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. I remember she bought me a hoodie a couple of years before, and it's a quote from Lord of the Rings, and it said, "Not all those who wander are lost," because she knew that I was struggling, you know, and things were hard, but I was going to find it eventually, you know, I was going to find that way. And I think I realized when I was in that prayer room, the comfort in my heart, that's not fake, that came from something. But then I remember that same night, it was a Friday night, so we were going out with I was going out with some of my friends. And I remember I was drinking, and that was in my head at the same time. And I remember I went to the nightclub, and I stepped into the nightclub, and I never had a thought like that. And the first thing was God isn't here. This place is void of divinity, is devoid of anything. I remember I paid £7 to go, and I just wanted to leave. I had to be in there for 4 hours. I remember I went into a room and just sat on my phone, just wishing that I was back in the prayer room, just watching people worship God. It was just people my age, where I'd never really met someone my age that had such a deep connection like that. I think that was when I realized I needed this. I remember when I celebrated Christmas with my family, I was stood in front of my mum and my brother. I was like, you're saying Jesus is God, but Jesus is born, but God is eternal, so what are we celebrating? And so I went back to uni about a month after, and I remember it was starting to become difficult. I wasn't liking being here. I was going back once a month, once every 3 weeks, because I just didn't want to be here. I needed that family time, because I felt so lost. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'll always remember, I think I went home in February, and I was speaking to my mum, and I was angry about something. I think I was still angry about Palestine. And she said to me, subhanAllah, she said to me, you need to do this because Muslims don't get angry.
Really?
Wallah, she said that to me. She said, I think this is what you need. You're getting very angry. Muslims don't get angry.
Wow.
So I wanted to do it for a couple months before I did it. But
probably she knew that you had been thinking about it.
I don't, my relationship with my mum is very open. I'd never hid anything from her.
Oh, so you told her earlier.
She can read me like a book as well. You know, if she asks me to do the washing up and I say I'm going to do it, she can tell if I'm not going to, you know. But yeah, and I remember it's Easter, and I went to a friend's house, and we went clubbing. This was start of April. We went clubbing, and I didn't want to drink. I'd never liked drinking anyway. And he was saying to me like, oh, just for me, because it was his birthday, just for me, because it's my birthday, you just let your hair down, drink whatever, just drink loads. I was like, okay. But in my head, I was like, I'm not doing this. And I remember I said some things that night, and I'm like, this is I would never say stuff like this. This is, what am I doing? Like, this is so unnatural. I didn't want to do this in the first place. Okay, so I came back. Week after, Thursday night, I was playing some games with my friends. I remember what day it was because Liverpool got knocked out of Europa League and I was a bit sad. So we were playing some games, and in my flat, there was a Palestinian living next door to me, a British Palestinian. I remember before I came to uni, I was worried, I'm gonna have to live with an Israeli. I don't think I can do it if that was to happen. And I got to uni and there was a Palestinian living next door to me. And we talked, you know, he found out about my passion for Palestine, and we had like a bond over that. But on that day, we bumped into him when I was going back to my room. I bumped into him, and a few of us were talking to him, and he said, "Corey, will you listen to Qur'an the other day?" And I said, well, yeah, I was scrolling through Instagram. There's a video about Palestine, and there was a quote about resistance, I think it was. And yeah, so the audio was on there. Yeah, I guess I was. So he was like, let me show you something. So I went into his room and we just talked. I think it was like 2 hours we talked about Islam and things. And I was like, I was going to go to Jummah with the friends from table tennis. Loads of times I was going to. And I just never got around to it. It was a Thursday night and he was like, come tomorrow with me. I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I went to uni, I came home, I went back and I went to Jummah with him. And as we were walking, he was saying to me, oh, there's this one sheikh and he's great, but he's never there. I hope you can meet him, but he's never there. And then subhanAllah, I got here and the one person he was talking about was taking the khutbah. And
so he was there.
He was there, subhanAllah, he was there. And I remember being captivated. I can't remember a word of the khutbah, but I remember afterwards we met with him and I asked him loads of questions. The Imam, I asked him loads of questions. And I could feel it, but I was like, he asked me, do you want to take a shahada? I was like, no, I won't for now. I was playing pool with some friends and I think he messaged one of the other brothers. He was like, does Corey have any more questions? I didn't have any in my head, but I was like, yeah, okay, can we meet him later? So I went down about 9 o'clock and I'll never forget, I walked from this place I was playing pool to here and it was about a 25-minute walk.
This was in this mosque?
This was, if you can see behind me, that back wall, I was sat there and I took my shahada. I went back and on that walk, when I looked on Google Maps, 25 minutes, I was like, this is going to be the last walk I take as a non-Muslim. I'm not leaving this mosque without taking my shahada. And I sat with him, I prayed Isha with them, I asked him more questions. And then it was about 10 o'clock and there was like 4 brothers there, including my Palestinian friend. And yeah, I took my shahada and it's a feeling that you can't describe. It's almost like something's being lifted off. You feel so light.
But how has it been since then? Is life better, or you had challenges as well?
I haven't felt lost once since. I can say for sure that feeling of being lost and not knowing what I'm doing, wallah,
the feeling that you were complaining from before.
Never been there since.
Now your mother must have accepted it because she encouraged you anyway. So no problem from that side, right?
My mum is the most incredible human being I think anyone could ever meet. I think she's obviously, Allah is using her to help me, but in terms of a human being, I wouldn't be anywhere without her. She's incredible, and the fact that I took this massive decision and she just accepted it straight away and she was happy for me. She bought me a prayer mat as a present.
Really?
She sent it to me like 3 days later. As soon as I got home, she had like loads of halal meat for me, you know. She made sure everything was okay. Literally the other day, she took me for a meal when I came back yesterday, and she took me for a meal this is my last night at home, and it was 5 o'clock and we left the house, and I was like, that's Maghrib in 2 minutes. And I was like, no, it's all right. I'll just pray it when I get to the restaurant. And she was like, no, go in and I'll wait for you to pray. So she is making it, I don't even know if she realizes, but she's filling in the gap.
Yeah. You see, this makes a big difference because I'm speaking to some of the brothers and the sisters that I interviewed. Some of them had really very tough time with their families.
I'm so unbelievably lucky, and inshallah, I never lose that feeling of. I'm in a very small percentage of people that is able to have full support from my family, whatever I do.
What about other members in the family?
No one, I'm incredibly lucky. No one is opposed. Everyone said, good on you, whatever you like.
Wow.
You know, there was quite a funny, I thought it was funny, but there was a party for my granny's 80th birthday, and I was in the back room praying Maghrib, and my auntie came in, and I hadn't told her, and I was praying, I was like this, and she was like, oh, Corey, and I was like this. And she was like, Corey, you're right. I just had to go. It's just, and then 5 minutes later, she comes back in. She's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what you were doing. I was like, wait, did I not tell you? And she's like, no. But I know I'm incredibly lucky and my family are incredible. And yeah, it's just, I think a thing with reverts that I don't know if people consider it that much is people born into Muslim families, they don't have to worry about their family as much as us. It's really hard for us to fall in love with this religion and fall in love with Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also the people that we love the most aren't there, and we have to have sabr and tawakkul almost instantly in order to live our lives. To be like, okay, I have to put my faith in Allah, that He is the most just and He is the guider and the best of planners and He's the most subtle, meaning I'm not going to realize when it's happening. I'm not going to know how it's happening. But if this is the right thing, then it will happen. And it's a really hard concept to deal with, especially like, you know, when you love your family so much, like my mum and my brother, is so important to me. It's a hard concept to grasp, but it's really important. It's really important, but it's difficult.
Yeah, but you see, the beauty of Islam is that no matter what sort of position your parents take vis-a-vis your conversion to Islam, you still have to be kind to them. You still have to treat them very well, no matter what they do.
And this religion has helped me so much in appreciate and care and nurture the relationships that are important to me. I think it's the concept of doing things for Allah, not wanting anything back, doing it solely for the reward of Allah. I think that's helped me so much and helped me, like the relationship that me and my mum have is so strong, and it's never been like this before. We're almost, you can never be truly equal with your parents, obviously, but it's almost like we're here now. We're both adults and we have a good...
Is she at all curious about Islam? Does she ask you questions about Islam?
When I speak to her about it, she listens. And I gave her a translation of the Quran, and she's opened it before. So I'm hoping that in my character, I can improve myself as a person even more. And things, we're getting on so well now. And my love for her has grown massively because of maybe what I'm putting in. But the reason that I'm putting it in, I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it to please the being that created me. That's the most important one. It's the most important thing. And I think that's why. I think it's the reason and not the action.
Well, Brother Kori, it's a fascinating story. I'm really delighted to have made your acquaintance, and it was joyful talking to you and listening to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.